Good day, everyone. I'm your host, Lee Judge, and welcome to today's webinar entitled Reduce Billing Inquiry Calls and Increase Your Customer Satisfaction, brought to you by Jakarta. As a note, to honor the privacy of our attendees, only your name will appear in the attendee window. Our presenter today is Clay Davis, Product Solution Specialist at Jakarta. Today we will look at how to convert your billing calls to self-service interactions, as well as how to reduce your contact center call volume for billing inquiries and other major call types. Following the presentation, there will be a question and answer session, so please feel free to type your questions into the Q&A window at any time. Also, once again, as a reminder, only your name will appear in the attendee window to protect the privacy of our other attendees. So let's begin. The presentation is all yours, Clay.
Well, thank you, Lee, and thank you, everyone, for joining today. It's a real pleasure to speak with everyone. I would like to start our conversation today by really describing kind of the backdrop for why Jakarta decided to create the billing call solution for utilities. And it was really a combination of a couple things. One is we work with quite a few utility companies, and obviously we understood their pains, and frequently it always seemed to come back to billing-related calls was a pretty typical thing. We're a customer service company. That's all we do. And so our solutions are, definitely targeted in the customer service space. And so it really just naturally made sense for us to tackle this problem. We understand that, organizations are measured based on their quality of their customer service through things like J.D. Power and Associates. And so we really wanted to help our clients make a dent in this problematic area. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump right in. For our agenda today, we're going to start by setting the stage, describing a little bit about the nature of the issue, and then we're going to move quickly into what is the Jakarta solution for billing-related calls. We will be at that point very early in the presentation today, so just hang tight, and you'll quickly be rewarded with seeing the live demonstration. And then we'll talk a little bit about how the solution works and some of the benefits that are available from this solution. And then perhaps most importantly, we'll show you exactly how you can try this out for yourself right there in your own environment. So with that as an agenda, let's dive right in. And probably the first thing we need to do, and I've already alluded to this, is really establish the case for why are billing-related calls and why are billing solutions required. And the short answer is because it makes up the vast majority of call types that come into the contact center. We know from dealing with other clients and from just industry analysis that about 75% of all calls that go into the contact center are somehow related to billing. So if we can do something there to help reduce the number or the frequency or the duration of those calls, that has a very significant bottom line impact for you. So our objective for the call today is, one, to help you see how our solution can help you reduce the call volume for inbound billing calls. Two, to help you save time on those calls that you do handle. And then three, and this is perhaps the longest term perspective, is to help you move into the 21st century in terms of how your customers are engaging you. Today's customers are digital, they're mobile, they expect companies to be able to work with them on the channel they prefer. And the solution we're going to show you today really helps you to start building the foundation for a true digital omni-channel type of experience. So with that said, let's talk about, if billing calls are such a problem, and if billing in general is such a thorny issue, what have companies done up to this point to try to solve the problem? And the sheer volume of different approaches really speaks to the nature and the severity of the issue, right? I mean, companies have invested millions, if not tens of millions of dollars in things like web self-service and mobile applications and bill optimization, web self-service, all of which potentially pay dividends, depending on how well they're implemented, of course. And all of them are part of a broad ranging strategy to help provide a better customer experience, to provide more transparency into the billing process, and ultimately to provide a better experience overall. But there's one principal issue with that, and that is, in spite of all these efforts, call volume keeps going up. Probably if you're responsible for workforce management or the staffing, you know that every week you're looking at the call volume wondering how can I help keep this flat or potentially even reduce the call volume that is making it into the contact center, meaning representative handled versus being contained inside the IVR. And perhaps what's most troubling with this graphic is the fact that if you think about all the things that you've invested to help resolve billing-related issues, most of them can't help once the customer picks up their phone and they dial your phone number. That is to say, your voice IVR is your last line of defense, if you will, for helping the customer self-serve once they've picked up a phone call. Of course, the problem with the voice IVR, and they provide many benefits, mind you, but the challenge is there's limited self-service that's available from a voice IVR. You can't enter alphanumeric characters. You can only display so many questions and so many options, so that the customer has to have that mental map of what their options are. And if a voice IVR gets too long and protracted, quite frankly, customers give up, they zero out, and now you've lost even that benefit of getting the correct routing. So voice IVR really can only help you so far and so much. Even if you're using like a natural language recognition, there's still limitations around how complex of questions can you ask and get answered, how many can you afford to show, and how do you deal with all the dialect and language challenges that are attendant. Voice IVR, natural language recognition, all are very important, valuable components of a solution, but they're not complete. So, which brings us to the billing call solution for utilities, built on Jakarta's Visual IVR platform. Visual IVR addresses the following problems. One, it helps resolve the problem of you only have, once a customer picks up their phone and makes a call, there's limited self-service options. Visual IVR eliminates that issue. Two, and perhaps this is probably one of the strongest aspects of Visual IVR, is we help improve the connectivity into the contact center. And I'm going to explain exactly what I mean in just a moment on that. So we're going to park that idea for just a moment, and then we're going to come back to it. Then lastly, there's a constant struggle to reduce average handle time inside the contact center. Visual IVR can absolutely help in that capacity, and we're going to see how. Now, to really kind of cement the idea of the before and after of, here's what you're currently using and here's where Visual IVR can help, I'm going to take just a moment to revisit our traditional voice DTMF IVR. This graphic probably speaks volumes to everyone, and in fact, I think I actually took the verbiage directly from my local utility provider here in Atlanta, Georgia. We went through and basically audited what we hear on the voice IVR, and it more or less correlates to something like this. Of course, DCM is not the name of the company, but you get the idea. One of the chief problems with this, and I mentioned about the connectivity into the contact center, think about all the work the customer's done potentially on their website before they even call, and then when they're in the voice IVR, and then in that moment, after they've gone through all the effort to listen to all these options, try to remember what the best option is, moving their phone back and forth from their face so that they can see the screen and hear all the options. When they finally do get connected to the customer service representative, and hopefully it's the right one, what do they hear but who are you and why are you calling? Now, if that seems harsh, understand we've trained our CSRs to answer it or to ask those questions in a more polite way. Perhaps it sounds something like, thank you for calling DCM Energy. May I please have your name? Who are you? How can I help you today? What are you calling about? This is not the type of customer experience customers in the 21st century expect. They expect you to know why they're calling. They expect you to know what they've tried to do on their website or on the mobile app or even inside the IVR. This, quite frankly, just doesn't get the job done when it comes to providing an exceptional customer experience. So now let's compare this with how Visual IVR tackles that same issue. Notice that we start where a customer has actually called into your contact center. So right off the bat, this differentiates us from your mobile app, because your mobile app isn't going to capture inbound calls the way Jakarta Visual IVR does. And for that matter, we know for most utilities, mobile app adoption rate is negligible. It's typically under 10%. So it's hard to get a great self-service hit rate when your customers are unwilling to download the mobile app. So in this case, we're actually going to start in a voice call, and you're going to see this in our demo momentarily. We're going to start with an inbound voice call that the customer has made on their smartphone, and we're going to convert that call into a visual interaction, one that shows the customer the exact information they need based on the call type that they're selecting to follow. It's going to give them very rich information that potentially helps them self-serve. Okay? But because we're not a self-service mobile app, you're going to see exactly how easy it is to build this using our drag and drop designer. So we're not a mobile app and we're not a self-service provider. We're a visual IVR that helps customers visually navigate through your decision process to get connected to the right customer service representative, or perhaps self-serve if we can show them the right content that will help answer their questions. So we're clearly showing how we can self-serve visually, and you're going to see that in the demonstration momentarily. But even in those cases where the customer decides, I really just need to speak to a customer service representative, we're going to transfer that call to the customer service rep. But unlike our last time where the agent doesn't know who's calling, or maybe you've got a screen pop, so maybe they know a little bit about who's calling, if your customer was wise enough to remember their account number, that is. In our case, we're going to show you not only who's calling, but what they're calling about, what they tried to do, what information they entered, why did they fail, and what can you do about it. So imagine the difference between the previous screen where the customer service rep is asking who are you and why are you calling, versus this scenario, which is basically, I know why you're calling and I can do whatever it takes, to pick up right from where you've left off. Okay? And the best part of all is we don't ask your customers to download a mobile app. One, because we know that they won't do it, and two, because it's not necessary. Everything you're seeing here can be done right on the browser, on the smartphone. We really don't ask them to download anything. Now that takes us to a point where I've set the stage for what is Visual IVR. I'm going to now pause momentarily and take us through a demonstration that actually explains what and shows how Visual IVR works. This is actually a recording that I made just in the past couple of days for a utility customer of ours who's evaluating this technology. So this is a real-world case study that has applicability. So I want to pause here at the very beginning and show that we're going to start off on the Jakarta website. And you'll see this at the end of the demonstration, so don't worry about writing this down. I'm going to show you this. And it's contained, the URL is contained in the PowerPoint that we're sharing today. Visual-IVR is Jakarta's domain. We've actually invented Visual IVR, and we're pretty much the first to market and have the strongest offering in this space. But you can actually run this demo yourself right from our website, and that's what we're going to do today. What you're seeing at this point is not Visual IVR. This is the Jakarta website, and it's a means for you to get to our demonstration. So there are two things we're going to show you today. One, we're going to show you the customer's perspective when they're on your website and when they're trying to find the contact you number. And then we're also going to show you what their perspective is on the smartphone here. And then we're going to end up by showing you what your customer service rep's perspective is on their desktop. So with that said, we'll go ahead and get started. So you can see here, we're navigating through the website, which is typically what a customer of yours would do if they were looking around on your website, right? And you can see some of the things we've got available on our website that's relevant. But momentarily here, we're actually going to go in and start trying the demo. You can see, by the way, also that we have Visual IVR for all the major telephony providers, Avaya, Genesis, Cisco, ININ, and others. If yours is not listed, don't worry. We work with most of them. So now I'm going to pause for a moment. We're still not at the demonstration yet, but we're about to launch it. Everything to this point is just showing you what's on our website, what you can see about Visual IVR. But now you can see we're about to try Visual IVR on the smartphone. You can do this yourself. First, we're going to select a country, United States, and we're going to select the vertical, in this case, utility. And we're showing a phone number that basically would correspond to your 1-800 number. So just so we're clear, this is a phone number that Jakarta provisioned for our demonstration purposes. But in your customer's case, they would be dialing your 1-800 or your local service number. Now we're going to see over on the smartphone that we're dialing the number that's been offered here, and we'll see the results as this occurs. Okay. What has happened at the very beginning is the customer has been offered the option to opt in to Visual IVR. Now, the wording you use is up to you. It really doesn't matter, but the point is, in your Voice IVR, you're going to offer customers the option to engage in a visual interaction. So the customer has called your 1-800 number, and they've received a voice message that says, you can try visual interaction if you like.
The visual menu will help us collect information to connect you to the best agent. Please don't hang up and follow the link in the text you just received. Please select your reason for calling today.
Okay. In this case, we are now at a point where the customer can see visually all the options that are available for them based on the call types that you anticipate to take. And I want to emphasize that the design, the layout, the branding, everything you're seeing here is easily modifiable on a day-to-day basis. You're going to see some pictures of our drag and drop designer. There is no coding required to create the interaction you're about to see. And in fact, it took us maybe a day to create the entire interaction, including all of the branding that, for what you're seeing here. In this case, we're going to pursue billing and payment-related calls because that is the topic of our webinar today. Okay, you notice that we asked the customer to enter their member ID or their customer ID. You can elect when you want customers to enter their customer ID, and you can change that on a per call type basis. If they're looking for directions to the local storefront to pay their bill, there's no need to have them authenticate. Okay, or on the other hand, if they're looking to pay a bill, then obviously you would want them to authenticate. How they authenticate, what they use is completely up to you. We can easily integrate this to whatever backend system you have that performs your authentication. Typically, we use the same approach that you would use on your website. In this case, we're going to, the customer has called, they don't understand their bill, and so what we've done is we've sat down with subject matter experts in the different utilities, and we've asked them, how do you typically walk a customer through the process of why their bill is what it is? And then we modeled the interaction based on their expertise. And that's what you're going to see here momentarily. We show all the different factors that can influence consumption, any information about rate changes, average temperature, Now think about the difference here between trying to have a customer service representative explain all this with no visual cues versus having all this information right there available for the customer to see for themselves. And they didn't have to go find it on the website. This is the difference. Visual IVR naturally led them to this based on what they said was important during the course of the call. And you can see we have the ability to use.
In order to update your meter reading, please follow these steps.
You can see we have the ability to embed content. We can really use all the capabilities of the smartphone, things like embedding video, using the camera, using location services. All those capabilities of the smartphone come to bear during these interactions. You're going to actually see the video playing here on the smartphone. The gentleman explaining how to take a meter reading. Then we enter the meter reading, the value. And based on logic that you've built in the designer that you're going to see momentarily, you can write rules that decide how to handle the entry here as an example. Okay? So we've noticed that that's a very low reading. So we can ask the customer optionally to take a picture that they send back to the customer service rep so that the CSR can actually see a picture of what the meter reading is. And now we're at a point where the customer has basically navigated through the process. We've asked the questions that we want to ask at the beginning to help get the call to the right place, to see if they can self-serve, and then also to get the call off to a good start. But the point I want to make in this is, you can make the process work the way it needs to work for you. In our case, we collected a bit of information first, and then we're offering to connect them to the customer service representative. But you can be as flexible or as rigid as you want to be in this case. You can make the customer answer a number of questions, then offer to connect them, or you can offer them to connect at the very beginning. Entirely up to you, and you can change it as often as you need, and you can change it on a per call type basis. In this case, we're querying the underlying CTI system to understand exactly what the hold time is for the queue in question. If you have click to call back or virtual hold, we can certainly make that available as an option. And if you have chat available, we can make that available here as well. These are, of course, depending on whether or not you use these channels, but they're options that can be exposed inside of Visual IVR. And we can, basically describe what the wait time for each of these is. Now, here's an important point. At this point, the customer understands that they've got 4 minutes. You have a captive audience. If they are deciding to wait for the 4 minutes, you have them on the phone for that 4 minutes with pretty much their undivided attention if you choose to use it. And that's what exactly Visual IVR allows you to do. And the moment we click on wait,
While you're waiting, here are some options you might find helpful.
as you can see, we have a number of things that we can do with the customer to help extend the experience and provide additional benefits. In this case, we're asking, is there anything else that we need to know that you want to tell the customer service representative? And now, we're going to shift our focus a bit from the customer perspective to the customer service representative's perspective. Perhaps you've noticed on the left side over here, the screen being updated. We're basically auditing all the information the customer has entered along the way, and we're capturing it so that we can present that to the customer service representative at the beginning of the call. You remember I said that we're going to help you save time on those calls where the customer still wants to talk to you? Think about all the information that's available here that's going to help the agent begin the call on the right path. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in a moment, but I just wanted to point this out, that the customer entered demo 123. Any information they enter, any pictures they take, can all be exposed to the agent right here at the time of the call. Let's keep going. most utilities have a number of outreach programs such as green energy or smart meters or automatic shutoffs for things like water heaters and AC units, all programs that they want to communicate out to their customers. What better way than while a customer is waiting with their smartphone in hand than to share these ideas right here in a mobile platform that's very conducive to sharing that kind of content. And now the 4 minutes is up. The customer service rep is now available to take the call, and then when they do, all the information, as I mentioned before, that was captured during the course of the call is made available to the customer service rep at the beginning of the call. So we'll hang up the call because we're not going to talk to anybody, and then we're going to take a look at what the customer service rep sees. Notice I see the account number, basic heading information. All of this information can be customized on a per call type basis, so that in some cases in the header you may want to show information about billing calls, or if you happen to be getting calls about outages, these fields would change. It's basically up to you how you want to design that. And all this information ultimately translates into getting the call off to a better start. That pretty well concludes our demonstration. I would like to follow up just briefly to explain how easy it is to make the changes that you've seen, and then I'm going to show you exactly where you can go to see this interaction. So let's continue forward with our presentation. The how does it work? Basically, you use our visual drag and drop interaction to create this these visual interactions that can be published to the web for web self-service, for mobile app or for mobile web as what we've seen today. And it can even be published into other areas where customers may want to interact, such as kiosks in your storefronts, as an example. And in every case, all the information that's collected is made available to the customer service representative. Now, I mentioned to you we had the ability to create these advanced interactions, and you can see this is our drag and drop designer that allows you to create exactly what you're seeing here with nothing more than, arrows and, nodes where you type in the information that you would like to see. It's about as difficult as creating a Visio flowchart, and there's no coding involved. As far as the features and benefits, as I mentioned before, we work with all the major telephony providers. If you don't see yours on the list here, that's not a problem. We typically work regardless. It's available pretty much anywhere a web browser works. We can render Visual IVR. And as I mentioned before, we can convert that inbound voice call into a visual interaction that helps customers self-serve. We have very nice reporting that helps you see how customers are navigating through, where customers are taking a long time. Are there any breakdowns in the overall interaction process? And of course, as you would expect, there's reporting around what is the usage, what is the adoption, and really the information that's going to help you improve your processes. Typically, for this type of deployment, we see a payback of about 4 to 8 months. I'm sure people are interested in the cost. Be more than happy to work with anyone to arrive at what an investment amount would look like. But typically, we are going to come in at a 4 to 8 month payback period. And then our last piece is we would like you to try this for yourself. And I'm going to show you just how simple that is. You can see the URL here. So you can either try the demo we created, and it'll walk you through the steps that we saw today, or you can download our drag and drop designer that you saw me reference, and you can create one that maps to your business process specifically. Or if you would like, engage us, and within typically about a day time, we can create something that's contextual for you as well, and let you try this and see it working in your environment with our assistance. just to kind of reinforce how easy it is to get to the demo, as I mentioned before, you'll go to www.visual-ivr.com. It'll bring you right to this page, and you click Try the Demo. And that will take you right to the place where there's a quick tutorial about what you're about to see. And then you go through and you select the country and the vertical and get this number, and you're off and running to try this out yourself. I really hope you will do that. I think you'll find that the experience is a great experience. It's certainly a more modern approach to engaging with our customers, and it's going to provide the exact type of experience your customers are looking for. So that concludes our presentation today. I really appreciate all your time and your attention. Thank you for attending, and I'm going to turn it back over to Lee now.
Thank you for your valuable insights on Visual IVR, Clay. Due to the high participation in the webinar, we're going to answer as many questions as possible from the Q&A window, and the remaining will be responded to individually after the event. So we'll now answer a few questions that have already been added to the Q&A window. The first question here, Clay, they ask, does Visual IVR replace my existing IVR?
No, it does not. As I mentioned in the call, voice IVRs are an integral part. You know, companies have spent collectively billions of dollars implementing IVRs because they solve a problem, which is that they help route calls to the appropriate agent. I don't foresee that, and I don't think anyone at Jakarta foresees that going away. What we're saying is Visual is a logical extension and a necessary extension to provide customers a more visual and complete interaction. But, you know, voice IVRs have their place, and you know, we don't foresee that going away.
Okay. We have a couple of questions here pertaining to language. One in particular asks, do you have the option to have Visual IVR in Spanish?
So the designer that we use, that you saw, that I use today, allows you to create an interaction one time, and then you can build in support for multiple languages simultaneously, so that you can have one interaction that contains the logic, but you can have multiple languages that are rendered so that if the agent you know, the customer can designate their preference, or if it's an agent who's using it, however it works, you can designate the language and it will support it. So yes, multilingual support is included.
Okay. I'm going to combine a few questions here to keep things moving along. One question is basically about using with an existing IVR. Another one similarly says, well, they're asking several questions. How is information transferred to the agent? I'll break it down. You can answer that first one first.
Yeah, let me kind of tackle this. So we work closely with the CTI system. Ultimately, and this is a bit on the technical side, and I'll get a little bit beyond my pay grade here, but bear with me. Essentially, the data can be provided back to the CTI and is delivered to the agent as attached data, which is, if you think of it in terms of a screen pop, your screen pop, if you already have one, basically is using attached data from the CTI to, you know, pop up a screen or maybe even do a deep launch into your CRM system. Effectively, we're just augmenting that information with the information that we've collected from Visual IVR, and it's also available through a RESTful API call. So it's available through standard integration approaches. How you use that information, whether you pop up a web page similar to what I showed you, or whether you use that data to drive behavior in your existing applications, is really an implementation decision that's up to you.
Okay. I guess that kind of answers another question about whether the information that they enter is actually sent to the back office ready for subsequent billing interactions.
So that's, you know, I think I mentioned at the beginning of the call, or perhaps I didn't, but Jakarta has been around since about 1990, and we actually started off in the integration space. And it's very typical to have an integration to at least one back-end system, whether it's a KIX mainframe or some other customer service or billing system. It's absolutely possible to push that data directly to these back-end legacy systems. Typically, the challenge is you need to have rules around, you know, does the information that's been entered, is it reasonable and logical or does it need to have a level of human vetting, right? And so that's usually a business decision, but certainly it can be pushed into those back-end systems.
Okay. Another question we have here in the Q&A window. So we understand that today's presentation was a little leaning towards utilities, but one of the questions in our Q&A window basically asks about the functionalities beyond billing.
Yeah, absolutely. We have identified maybe 100 different use cases, things as broad-ranging as product activation for technology companies, roadside assistance for rental car companies, high billing and outage management related use cases for utilities. You could do move in, move out for utilities, for cable companies and telephony companies, technical troubleshooting for your mobile device. The implications and the use cases for the underlying technology, which is Visual IVR, are broad-ranging.
Okay. Maybe another technical question here. What are the requirements needed to blend into an existing infrastructure, such as PCI compliance and data storage?
So Jakarta has a long history of working with organizations to ensure that any solutions that need to be PCI compliant are. Obviously, we'll want to work with whatever organization to understand their specific requirements in that context. And as far as storage, all those questions would really, I would need to defer to a solution engineer who could ask the specifics about what you're looking to deploy. Are you going to be using this in the cloud, which Visual IVR is available in the cloud, or an on-prem solution? There's a number of questions that would need to be answered, but we have the solution deployed in very large-scale environments, hundreds of thousands of calls a month, so I'm confident that we can support whatever your environment needs are.
Okay. A little bit higher level questions here. We have about 3 of those, and then we'll be wrapping up shortly. I think you may have mentioned it earlier, but someone asked, do you need a mobile app?
In fact, you do not, and I would suggest that any solution that requires a mobile app is almost, I won't say it's destined to fail, but it's going to have an uphill battle. What we found, and we've studied this extensively and have read all the research and done our own research, and frankly, mobile app adoption takes one of several forms. It's the hospitality industry has pretty good adoption. If you're in, hotels or airlines such, they just have reasonable. The finance area, banking has an exceptionally high rate. But other industries really are hit and miss. I mean, I know for a fact I don't have my own utilities mobile app. I downloaded it once. It was interesting and well built. I just didn't use it. But yet occasionally I still call the company. So Visual IVR stands to fill that gap where customers who are, reluctant to load up their phone with another mobile app they don't use, but still could benefit from the functionality when they call. And that's what Visual IVR does, is it provides that flexible interaction when a customer calls.
Okay. Another question here asks, how does this compare to speech recognition?
So it's a great question. So speech recognition is an awesome technology that really helps provide that interaction where it's free form. Customers can pretty much express whatever they need if it's natural language recognition, and you can make a lot of inferences about why the customer is calling. But there are challenges, and if you think about even in popular culture, you're always seeing that people want to interact intelligently so that they can speak to computers, but they also want to visually have a very elegant visual and touch-based interaction. And like I said, one only need to look at modern movies to think about all the cases where you see individuals interacting with computers in a visual and a touch base. So I see that really both are required in the future. If you think about 10 years from now, I think it's going to be the exception to hear a phone ask you to press 1 for sales and press 2 for services. I think you're going to interact with companies one of 2 ways. They will either say, tell me why you're calling, or they'll show you a very elegant user interface that lets you navigate visually. So I think both of them are complementary.
Okay. Well, we're going to wrap up here to respect the time of our attendees. We have one last question I'm going to pull from the Q&A window, Clay. The last question here asks, what is the adoption rate for Visual IVR?
That is a great question. Visual IVR has been on the market and really started being deployed for the last 6 months or so. And what we found is in the very early stages, when customers call into a phone number and are given the option to say, would you like to try Visual IVR? The starting point for adoption is about 45%, 50%, in some cases 55%, depending on the specific use case, but it trends upward from there. But more importantly, for those customers who do adopt it, the 45 to 55%, the customer satisfaction scores are about 98%. Would be very happy to share with anybody on the phone today some of the specific comments that we've received back from our customers for how customers like the ability to interact in a visual capacity. It's very well received, and the containment rate is dramatic. You can expect about a 10% uplift on your IVR containment above and beyond what your IVR is already doing when you add Visual IVR.
All right, that's awesome. Well, that concludes our webinar today entitled Reduce Billing Inquiry Calls and Increase Your Customer Satisfaction. Thanks again to Clay Davis, our Product Solutions Specialist here at Jakarta. If there are any questions we were unable to answer during today's session, we will respond directly to you after the event. We hope that you gain valuable insight into Visual IVR and how easily you can utilize it to enhance your organization's customer service. Clay's just displayed some information on the screen there, how you can contact him directly. So if you look at your screen now, you'll see his phone number and also his email address. A replay of the event will be available soon on Jakarta.com. If you'd like a copy of the slide decks, please contact Clay or myself. My email address is ljudge@jakarta.com. That's ljudge@jakarta.com. And be sure, as Clay suggested, to go by the website and try the demo at visual-ivr.com and see for yourself. Once again, thanks for attending and have a wonderful day.